Hello boxing fans and welcome back to Andy Scavern. How all tonight? All good I hope? Well then, what we're thinking about the night. Dave Allen, the big cuddly rhino, calls himself the white rhino, but he's more like a big cuddly rhino, isn't he? He needs to get a bit more about him, I think, doesn't he? Fair play to him, he's very respectful. Saw an interview with him on Talk Sport when they were talking about the Johnny Fisher fight and the prospects of a rematch, which I think has to happen personally. But it's almost like Adam Catterall and the Gad were having to kind of push him. Go on, go on, Dave. You've got to get this rematch. He seems a bit too laid back. I just hope he's got a team behind him that's going to push for this, because it'd be a missed opportunity. It's got to be a big payday for Dave Allen. He's missed out on paydays in the past. It's probably well documented about when he was offered the Daniel Dubois fight by Bricktop, and Eddie Hills told him or talked him out of it and said, "Oh no, we'll match that dive." Didn't happen, did it? And it was good money. I can't remember the figures at the time, but it was very good money. Biggest payday we'd have received. So it's time to recuperate that, Dave. You need to get the finger out and push for it. Instead of being a big cuddly rhino, be a charging rhino and make sure you get your rematch. Because it was a very entertaining fight, and I'm sure a rematch will be every bit as entertaining. I picked Dave Allen to win by knockout in the first fight. I think I also put a pound on a draw. I often put a pound on a draw because it's decent odds for a draw, but I thought the reason I put a draw on, the same as I did for Liam Cameron against Ben Whittaker, whatever you want to call him, was because with Whittaker and Johnny Fisher, Big Johnny Bosh, being or Elmer Fudd as Porky calls them, being the ticket sellers, you're going to struggle to get a decision against them on the cards, aren't you? So I thought the best I could hope for was a draw. Unfortunately, the scores were widely considered to be wrong. It was, I felt it was a win for Dave Allen. I thought he'd done enough. I think if he'd been a bit fitter, he could have stopped Johnny Fisher, but it wasn't to be. So let's hope the rematch happens. He's talking about he'd like to win a British title. I think he could if he put his mind to it, and depending who the opponent is, he knows himself he doesn't want to go near Atuma, doesn't he? Moses Atuma. I don't think many folk are want to go near him, either. He looks to be the real deal. But time will tell, won't it? He's certainly an exciting prospect, probably one of the most exciting prospects in recent times. Yeah, so let's see where that goes. Somebody else I've seen getting interviewed was Big Joe Juggernaut Joyce. He's on the comeback trail on 1st of March, I think it is. He's coming back, but I don't know who he's fighting. Ironically, he holds 2 wins over 2 of the big fights. One of the big fight, the 2 boxers in one of the big fights in the February 22nd card in Riyadh, which is Joseph Parker and Daniel Dynamite Dubois. Big Joe Joyce holds a win over both of them. I think there was talk of Dubois wanting to avenge his defeat to Joe Joyce, so if Joe can get a couple of wins, you never know. He could be in for an IBF heavyweight title shot. That's if, well, it could be against either of them. It doesn't have to be Dubois. You can't just go writing Parker off because, like I've said before, he's got a lot of experience. And when Dubois was calling out Usyk after the Usyk Fury 2, he's still got Parker to fight first, doesn't he? So is he looking past Parker? Could be subconsciously looking past him, and that could be his undoing. ironically. So, but you never know. Joe Joyce might get a shot at that IBF title at some point. Who knows? Exciting times ahead, eh? Whoa. So we shall wait and see on that one. We shall look at that fight further down the road. But Joe Joyce has taken quite a lot of punishment, hasn't he? Because his chin is what he uses to fend off punches in the past. But who knows? No, he's always. I mean, some people say he talks a bit slow, like he's taken some damage. But I think, from what I remember, I have to look back at videos. I think he's always talked a bit like that. But he comes across as a lovely guy, and I believe he's a very talented artist. So, no, that's got anything to do with boxing, but that's maybe an avenue he can go down if he decides to retire from boxing. But he doesn't seem interested in retiring, does he? So, for me, I thought for a long time he was like an avoided fighter, like you would say Martin Bakole and Ajit Kabayel are at the moment. So, but after he came on stuck against Zhang, that air of invincibility evaporated, didn't it? So people will be more keen to take him on now. But he does have very good stamina, and he's still pretty tough. Chisora dropped him, but I think that was what really tipped it in Chisora's favour, because Chisora was getting battered in that fight by Joe Joyce at times. But again, Joe's defence has never improved, and that's probably his weakest point, isn't it? His defence. But we'll see what happens. If he wants to carry on, if he's passing medicals and wants to carry on fighting, there's nothing you or I can really do about it. But watch. But let's just hope it's not a train wreck in slow motion going to happen. Let's hope he has a bit of success, because he sounds like a decent guy. So we shall see. Something else that caught my eye was a proposed fight between Tommy the Duke Morrison. Remember him from back in the 90s? His son, he's a fantastic left hook, Tommy Morrison. His son, James Mackenzie Morrison, who I'm not really familiar with, to be honest, or they're calling him Kenzie Morrison. There's a proposed fight of him, he's 34-year-old, against a blast from the past, Ike Ibiabuchi, the president, once dubbed the Nigerian Mike Tyson, but who got himself in a bit of bother and I think he served over 20 years in jail, and apparently he's looking to come back at the ripe old age of 51. So he was a very tough competitor at the time. He had fantastic fights against I think it was David Tua, who he beat on points. That was one of his big wins, and he stopped Chris Bird. I think he took Chris Bird's as far as I remember. But that fight against David Tua, I'm sure it was, at the time, for a heavyweight fight, I think it was the most ever punches thrown on a heavyweight fight. It was a fearsome battle. But he was a mean dude at the time, Ibiabuchi, but I don't really see him doing much coming back at the age of 51 now. As was said before, Father Time's undefeated. I think he's got 20 fights, 20 wins, 15 knockouts. So back in the day, he was a formidable character. But if he is going to fight, I'd rather see him fight guys his own age or something. Maybe somebody like Shannon the Cannon, let's go, champ, Briggs. Maybe a fight against somebody like him would be because he comes from the same era. I think he's 53, I think, Briggs. So they were about at the same time, but they never fought. But if they're going to fight somebody your own age or something, somebody way younger. I think that Tommy Morrison's son, I think his record's something like 21 fights with 20 knockouts and 1 defeat. So who knows? That's a kind of vintage interest fight, that one, isn't it? So he would have been about the same time as Tommy Morrison himself, who didn't fight either, but that would have been a cracking fight. So Tommy Morrison had a great left hook, but he was always a wee bit suspect about the chin, but he went the distance with George Foreman, though. There was an aging George Foreman at that time. I think he was about 44 or something in that region. But he did go the distance with Foreman. Lennox Lewis, I think, stopped him in about 5 rounds. That was one of his last fights because I think he tested HIV positive after that fight, if I remember. And there was a kind of bit of noise at that time round about that. But I'm sure he came back and fought somebody else, or a couple more fights a few years later, But he also starred as, was it Rocky 4 or Rocky 5, as heavyweight prodigy Tommy Gunn, I think it was. But he was a good fighter and he had a great left hook. But Tommy Morrison, RIP, rest in peace, because he's no longer with us. But there we go. So it's 26 years since Ika Ibuchi last fought. And that was against Chris Bird, I believe. Yeah. So I think that's about it for tonight, guys. I hope you're all well out there. We'll try and get some more content out this coming week. I'm on with Russ tomorrow night in Porky's Corner. So looking forward to that. And don't forget, Boxers in Need. I've told you all before about it, so it'll only take you 5 minutes to look it up. www.boxersinneed.com. It's all for a good cause, helping grassroots boxing and boxers that's fallen on hard times. Like I've said before, once they're off the big screen, out of sight, out of mind, people forget about them, and these guys put their life on the line to entertain us, so we shouldn't forget about them. We should always remember them. So if you can, £12 a year, £1 a month, just do a bit of good. Everybody's got their own preference in charities, but if you're a boxing fan and you want to support a charity, that's probably a good one to support. So okay guys, we'll leave it at that. Until the next time, take care, be happy and be healthy. Cheers.